final question for you would just be, do you have any questions for me before we begin?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so then we can just go ahead and get started, and I'll be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Hello.
Mhm.
Hello. Night.
So so have you already looked into like Doomfist tech things? Because if I
Yes,
already
I have.
see, yeah, okay. So because I already see two techs that you've just used on Doomfist that a new player typically wouldn't be acquainted with, but so that just
Yeah,
indicates some. Oh, you already did some research. So I like
quite a
that you're
lot.
doing. Yeah, so it's good that you're doing the punches, or sorry, the jumps at the end of your punches, and then you're also going for fast slams. So those are two
Night.
pretty good ideas. Though here, this is interesting that we think that this tiny little pillar can hide us up against them there.
It wasn't the best choice.
Mm,
I don't get the kill here, but
mm.
my team does.
All right, so let's think through a little bit of this real quick. So first off, let's note the engagement. So first off, with the engagement here, I would probably say it would be a really good idea to go for a punch engagement, as this would, if we landed on somebody, would pretty much guarantee a kill, right? Because it's a one shot to all but the tanks here, right? So we could one shot the Genji, the Ana, the whoever that is, Baptiste, right? And then pretty much one shot the Zarya. So that gives us our one shot potential. And then we also have a very easy wall to hit them into here because we're just dead on to the side. Whereas maybe like if we were coming from this direction, right? Well, now we don't really have a wall to punch them into, right? Then the other thing that I am thinking through here is after we do engage, right? We come in, we go in with the slam, which is okay. It's not terrible and compare like it's not a terrible option. It's just probably punch would be better. Once we do come in, right, we're looking at the ability usage is we punch the Ana, right?
Away from
So
Somalia.
so the problem there being we fully synced our kit. So that fully syncing your kit being when you use all of your abilities all at once, right? That is completely fine in certain instances, not in this one, right? So if you're fully syncing your kit while you're in the middle of their entire team, well, now you don't have any abilities to escape with, and you're just kind of stuck sitting in the middle of them, and then you're probably going to die in a lot of cases, especially when you start going up against better opponents, right? They're probably going to kill you for that. So, in a lot of cases, you don't want to fully sync your kit. You want to use one ability to go in, uppercut, and then use the other ability to escape. So that would be slam in, uppercut, punch out, or punch in, uppercut, slam out, right? Are your basic generic combos that you can use. But the idea is we're going in and we're getting out. Here, what we're doing wrong is we're going in without thinking about how we're getting out, right? So, some instances where fully syncing your kit would be okay is if it's on like an isolated target. So, like, let's say we're 1v1ing somebody, like Tracer over here, right? Or let's say, we know we're like in very little danger, like we fully sync our kit, but we're ending the fully syncing. We're ending that, right? Like inside of our team, for example, right? Or some other times it'd be like if we're very heavily winning the fight, or if we have our ultimate, right? So those are all cases where we would be able to do that, but here we can't really do that. Oh, very nice.
I I went too far here.
Yeah, biggest. I'd probably say the big problem being that we end up first off uppercutting for no reason like that. I guess were we trying to get a yeah like here it seems like the uppercut didn't really come for any particular reason. Right, and then after we uppercut, we also don't have a way to escape. So once again, we're kind of engaging when we don't have escape options. Right now, here we maybe have the potential to win this. Like if we punch Zarya early there and don't try to fully charge it, then that maybe gives us the potential to win that. Or we could even just turn around and just punch out our options. Or we could punch Ana, or we could just drop off the side here. So we have a lot of options, but the problems being are that we engaged when we didn't have abilities, and we also didn't disengage fast enough, right? So there are ways that we could have gotten out there, but we didn't, right? No, I messed that up.
I'm taking the point.
Usually when you're using punch for mobility, you want to fully charge it more, right? Like go for like a full charged punch, and then that gets you the most distance with your punches. Like that, like we just did.
My barrier's about to fall. Enemies over there.
Alright, so let's rewatch this for a little bit here. So here we go in, we see Reinhardt, and Baptiste just kind of chilling there. But then the problem ensues when we continuously try to go on Reinhardt. So this gets into target priority and who are the targets and who do we want to be shooting at, essentially, right? And in general, that's not tanks. We don't want to shoot at tanks when we're given the option. So the reason why that is because tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor, which gives additional tanking. They have shields. They have tanking abilities. And then on top of all this, they don't even though they're a very important role and they can carry, what they do is they create space, whereas DPS output damage and supports output healing, and tanks don't output statistical data, right? So in that sense, we want to be going for supports and DPS whenever possible, and here we just spend way too much time shooting at Reinhardt, and then he just tanks all of it and gets pocketed through it. Whereas swapping our attention to Baptiste here might be a much better idea. The other thing to be thinking about here is making sure that we're punching Reinhardt into things. Like here, for example, like we try to punch Reinhardt and then he just ends up not connecting with a wall, right? Noting that punches aren't going to do anything if the person isn't connecting with something, right? It's not the initial punch that does the damage, but the object that they're hitting behind them that does the damage, right? So what that means here is that Reinhardt doesn't take really any damage from that because he never actually collides with a wall. And then once again, we do this in a moment here, and then we try to punch him, and again, he doesn't collide with a wall, so he doesn't really take any damage. So fully charging that punch there possibly could have sent him into the wall, but then also noting that Reinhardt takes reduced knockback, which would he's just a pretty hard target character to hit into a wall. Yeah, and then we eventually swap up our targets just a little bit late. All right.
Hello. Photon barrier ready to deploy. Get behind it.
Okay, like their angles we're taking. Though I might end up in that instance when we're maybe taking more of a sneaky angle, you might want to add in some crouches. This will muffle and mute your footsteps so that other people can't hear them. So if you're trying to go fast, or you're further away from somebody, you can do a crouch spam or like a kind of a alternating, that's the word, between walking and crouching and walking and crouching. And then if you are close to people or you are also not trying to move super fast, then you can just hold down crouch, right? But that just might make it harder for people to know where we are, is an option there. Okay. So in that instance, I would probably say that I would not make Tracer our priority here, right? When we see that their entire team is being fluxed and we also have our ultimate, right? I probably would say that Tracer is not a very high priority at the moment, in comparison to getting a room full of people killed, right? So in this instance, right, probably the best course of action would be to destroy a mortality field and then to immediately ult and slam down into this room, right? Which would mean that we can get a bunch of kills, whereas here we spend our time focusing on Tracer, who is a very mobile character. We have trouble trying to find her. We ult, but then at that point, the Sigma ult is already used. They are already back to full HP, right? So it doesn't. That means that our ultimate has the potential to not get as much value, though it still does a lot here, right? It just probably could have gotten more value had we used it with the Sigma Flux instead of after it. All right. So in that instance, we are very heavily winning the fight, and we probably don't need to disengage that far. So I don't know if we need to go. I get. Why don't we go just in depth on it anyways? Right. We have the time. So this gets into how to tell whether or not you're winning or losing a fight. Right. The very basics of this comes down to watching kill feed. Right. When we watch kill feed, the top right corner of your screen. Right. We see when people are up and down. When we are up 1 to 2 people, that's an advantage, right? We can play more aggressively, we can go in further. And then when we are up 2 to 3 people, that is a one fight, right? So right now, this is a one fight because it's a 6v3, right? Which means that we have such a significant advantage that they probably aren't going to be able to bring that back. This also goes the exact opposite direction, right? When we're down 1 to 2 people, we're going to play at it's going to be a disadvantage, so we play a little bit more passive. Down 2 to 3, that is a lost fight, and then we want to either look to get out or we let them kill us. That way we don't stagger ourselves, which is a term we might get to later on. And then overall, when you're winning, when you've won or lost a fight, don't look to use ultimates. And then just again here, when we've won a fight, you can get a lot more aggressive. Whereas here, we just kind of back all the way up, right? Which probably isn't necessary when we're winning the fight.
Jag fixar dig.
I need healing. Heal me.
Reality bends to my...
All right, so make sure that in between fights that we're set, we want to in between fights be setting up in the best positioning possible so we can be ready for the next fight, right? That way we just have superior positioning coming into the fight, and we have a ton of time there. Like, you know, in between fights you have roughly around like 10 to 20 seconds to work with. So here when the fight's beginning and they're about to walk through choke, right? Notice how we're like halfway across the map from them. So we're not in very great positioning as of the moment. So I would probably say that the best positioning for you to be in here would be to set up in this top room, right? Because that means that either direction they go here, right? If they go main, if they go top, we can engage on them, right? If they go top, all we have to do is either wrap around behind them, or we can alternatively just come this way, like come back up this way and shoot at them, right? And then if they go down main, right, they go right side, we can drop on them from above, and then any way we approach this, we just have an advantage. Whereas here, not too great that coming down main, right? That's not a great option. Very nice.
Stay down.
I was actually unfamiliar with the fact that you were able to stand on top of that. The heck, you like walked along this. I didn't know you could do that.
It looked like I didn't think I could either, honestly. My plan was gonna be to punch over it.
Mm-hmm.
Heal me. I need healing. Heal me.
Oh, make sure we're just kind of scouting where people are, keeping our ears open, especially like when we can't see people. We know we just killed their entire team, and here, like, there's nobody there, right? Which means that when we slam in here, it doesn't really accomplish anything. So just make sure being aware.
Damage amplified.
I'm just getting started.
Огонь по готовности.
I can read your.
All right, very nice.
I'm just gonna be. I'm gonna end up really toxic towards the Tracer. It's just she was just typing racial slurs all last game.
No, those things. Huh? How many you've been watching a lot of videos, man.
Oh yeah, I have.
Activating the barrier.
Just I don't know how to play around a Pharah very well.
Yeah. So up against the Pharah, right, you have two options. I mean, like, or the main thing to keep in mind is that you are looking to avoid the Pharah, not directly confront, as she has a very significant advantage against you, right? As she's pretty much a counter to you. And it doesn't mean you have to swap off your character, it just means you have to look to avoid her, right? In 1v1s. Now, times where you can look to contest her, or something like this is a time you can look to contest her, where you can come off of a high ground, off of this is what you call a rollout, right? You'd come off of
Yeah.
a rollout and you can get up to her height, right? Whereas here we probably could have gotten her. I'd probably say the big thing is that we're not aware of where the heck she is. There we could see her for a brief time, but we end up just kind of missing out on where she is here, and we don't seem to be aware of her, right? When she's like an inch from us. So we want to make sure that we're keeping our ears open, right, as well as keeping our eyes open and looking for for the different cues we see. Like here, when we're punching over, we can see here really briefly. There, we can see Mercy pocketing her, right? So we know she's right there, and then we can hear her drop there to the floor, and then here we can hear below us, we see a rocket come from the right, and then we turn to the right and no one's there, so we know, okay, no one's on the right side, she's probably on the left, right? We turn and we just end up completely being in the wrong direction, right? So in any case, there we just don't have good awareness of our
Yeah.
surroundings, and then that leads to us not getting a kill we maybe could have gotten. In terms of better audio awareness, right? Couple different things to keep in mind on this end. First off, just, in sound settings, right, is turn up your normal volume if you feel like you need to. I recommend turning down music volume, as this can clutter with your audio and make it harder to know what's going on around you. Do you know if you have surround sound enabled as an option on your
I
headset?
do, yes.
Okay, so then that's good. Um, then the final thing, right? Even if this one is the most important, because you could have the most trash settings on everything else with your sound, um, but if you are not paying attention to footsteps and gunshots and ultimates and abilities, then you're gonna get nowhere, with your audio, right? So you want to make sure you're paying attention to all that, because you could have really garbage sound settings and still be able to hear things, right, if you're listening for the specific things, right? So keep your ears open, make sure you're paying attention. Okay, putting a lot of attention and focus into the wrecking ball, right? Again, who it's not to, when we talked about this before, I forgot to mention this, it's something we never go on tanks, right? We go on tanks when they're low, we go on them when they're out of position, we go on them when they're the only thing to shoot at, but when we have the option to shoot at other things, either because we can just like, let's say we're standing like right here, and we can very clearly either shoot at the Ana or the Roadhog, that's what you call equal opportunity, or we can make the decision to go and seek out Ana over the Wrecking Ball, right? Because we're actively seeking the easiest things to kill, right? So make sure we're going on the easy things to kill, not the very, very difficult things to kill. So let's go through their team comp real quick, because it goes beyond just tanks, right? There's also additional target priority past just tanks. So if you were to take a look at their team comp, who would you say on their team is like the easiest character for you to kill?
I'd say they're Ana.
Yep, definitely they're Ana, right? And then we can make a list in our head of like, okay, who comes after Ana, right? Who would you maybe say like comes after Ana and how easy they're gonna be?
Mercy. Then I'd probably go to Tracer, then Hog, then Ball.
So in this situation, right, I would it really depends upon the situation, because this is after Ana, every character becomes insanely difficult to kill, right? Mercy can fly to Pharah. I would probably say
Yeah.
you probably are correct that Mercy's going to be on the ground quite a bit though, right? So Mercy probably becomes second, second priority. But and then besides that, Pharah, Tracer, Ball, and Hog all almost have a equal-ish, almost an equal priority, because they're all very difficult to kill, and we go after them when we see opportunities. Like when one of them is low, when one of them is out of position, when we have the opportunity to get up to Pharah's height, when Tracer is coming to duel us, right? So it's just really dependent upon the situation then who we would be going for, but the first priority here in the situation would be their supports, and we're not really focusing the supports, right? Okay. Another thing to note is our approach angle, right? A lot of the times we keep coming in from the front, right? So there's a lot of problems when you try to come from the front. When we come from the front, this gives them the greatest, it basically is very easy for them to see us, right? It gives them a lot of time to react, to dodge us, to stun us, to shoot at us, right? And then therefore we have the greatest chance of dying and also not accomplishing as much, right? Whereas if we come in from the side or behind, they cannot immediately see us, right? A lot of the time, which means that we are not going to get shot at, stunned, or dodged nearly as much, right? And this also what this also does is this creates what you call a crossfire effect, where if we come from the left and our team's coming from main, well now, right, they have to decide who do we shoot at, who do we look at, who do we use shields against, who do we dedicate resources to? Do we look at the down main or the right? And then because people are terrible at communicating, this is always going to cause confusion, and this is always going to result in an advantage, right? Even up to professional levels. So in any case, don't go from main, come from the left or the right. This is what you call off angling, right? It is coming from a different angle from the main angle, and this does a lot of things. It lets you get to their backline instantly without having to go through their tanks, and then gets you all those advantages that we just talked about.
The objective is now
I need healing.
Okay, once again, let's take a look at this real quick. So there, Anno's like 1 HP, so I just maybe be paying attention to the Ana, because we possibly could have, no, we didn't really have anything there, is the problem, so that's fine. Okay, if you don't have something to punch her into, right, then you're not gonna, it's not even worth it to try to punch them, right? Like here, if we're not gonna punch her into anything, if she's just gonna go into open space, then punching past her here isn't accomplishing anything, when we could alternatively punch over to her and then maybe shoot at her, right? Or punch over to her and uppercut her, right? Your main, in a lot of cases, the way you're killing Pharah is with your gun, not with your abilities, because you're a lot of times not going to be able to slam her because she's not going to be on the floor, and a lot of times you're not going to be able to punch her as she's not going to be on the floor, right? So your main sources of damage are going to be your gun and your uppercut, whereas here we don't really utilize those.
Behind you.
Okay, good job disengaging. Okay, very nice.
Your every move.
Oh, very slick. Do you have perhaps previous FPS experience outside of Overwatch?
Not really. I've been on PC for about a month.
Uh-huh. Okay, so
But
you
I've been playing a lot of aim trainers, so
okay.
Heal me.
Well, just note that you're doing very well, man. Just
thanks.
keep practicing, and then you'll probably, this is one of those instances where I would say that you seem to have a natural talent for the game, which I don't say for everyone I coach. You can go ahead and look at all the other coaching sessions I do, but this you seem to be picking it up very fast for only having a month in the game. Mm.
I wanted that Pharah.
Yeah, so here, again, while going to the Pharah, we just end up missing the uppercut to get to her, and then a hog ends up poking us from the side. That's unfortunate.
This next skill here is really funny. I guess barely tap her.
Oh,
I was looking for a
cool.
challenge.
So before that, I probably say, why don't we talk about this quite a bit, or like a little bit here, because we end up missing quite a bit of our abilities. So why don't we look through that, like from here on out, is just, I'll call them out when we see it, but we end up just missing a lot of abilities. And we obviously want to be hitting more abilities, because hitting more abilities means we're getting more value. So here, when we punch up to the Pharah, we end up just missing the punch. And once again here, I probably wouldn't attempt to try to hit the Pharah, just knowing that it's probably not going to work unless you see it like kind of lining up. And here, like, I wouldn't make the I would probably say it'd be easier for here, right? Instead of trying to punch her into the wall, which is probably going to be pretty difficult, if we just punched over to her into an uppercut and a shot. So that would be, for example, why don't we leave the game real quick? That's a combo that we can demonstrate real quick. And it's going to have specific uses, right? So this would, you would do this essentially
Only
the
through
main
conflict
time.
do we
The main time
evolve.
you'd use this is if you're out of range of somebody, right? So like if we're trying to kill somebody all the way over there and we can't slam to them and we can't punch to them normally, what we would do is we would just punch and then add in the jump, and then we get extra distance off of that. And then we would then, oh, well, that didn't go too well. One moment. Then after that, we would uppercut into some shots, right? So let me wait for some bots to get a little bit closer. All right, so we would go for something like this, right? And then we just be out. So that's something we probably would want to do on the Pharah instead of trying to punch out of the air, because that's probably just gonna be a little bit easier to do, to be honest, right, than to try to punch her out of the air. So we would just, again, we just punch over to her, right, do something like that, drop on her head, and then therefore it's much easier than trying to punch her. Yeah, I think we're at like 611, something like that.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, so, and then that again gets us a little bit confused over where the heck people are. Make sure, this shouldn't be too confusing, right? Like if we see that we missed the punch to the right of her, then she's on our right? So here we know she's on the right, and then instead we turn left, like we're confused over where the heck she went. And then we're looking like
Yeah.
side to side when we can hear her below us, and then we finally do hit that last shot, so that's fine, that's
Was looking
good.
for a challenge.
Alright, so we're up a player, we can start getting a little bit aggressive.
To my will.
Walk it off.
وليهم Justice reigns from above.
Oh, they made a skip there. Oopsie. So let's like rewatch this a hair. So first off, noting that we're getting a little bit aggressive when we don't really have any abilities left, right? So we end up using all of our abilities, and then we're in the middle of their team. Like if Hog had turned around here or Ball looks at us, right, then we'd be in a little bit of trouble. So we just want to make sure we're being careful with our ability usage, because we do get a little bit aggressive there. Then besides that, we end up just missing a punch, right? Making sure we're just trying to land our abilities. Then noticing as well here, we end up punching, or we try to go for the Hog, but then we hear a Pharah who's ulting, and now who's easier to kill, Pharah in the situation or Hog?
Definitely Pharah.
Right, so maybe turning around to look at the Pharah might get us more value than trying to go after the Hog here, because when we don't look at, then we just end up, she gets a kill out of it, we end up not doing anything to the Hog here. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so at the moment it's a 1-2-3 versus a 1-2-3. We're getting some players from back soon. So in this situation, I would probably say it's like okay-ish that we use our ultimate. We're at a pretty significant advantage, so it's possibly might have wanted to hold on to it.
I was looking for a challenge.
Gather at this position. Barrier in place.
I kind of just chased the ball here for a good 10-15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It was a terrible idea.
No, a lot of times that's fine to do because we're essentially what we're doing there is we're just getting some free ult charge. We're keeping him at bay. Sometimes that can actually securing kills. Doomfist can actually bully ball pretty hard. In a lot of instances, just with our CC, we can do to him.
I need healing.
Tracer got me.
All right, so Tracer flanks behind. Let's rewatch that for half a second.
This way. I understand.
Alright, so we fully sync our kit on getting the ball, and then Tracer just ends up flanking around behind us. So let's when did we see or hear Tracer? So I guess Tracer's above us there. Okay, so
This way. I understand.
alright, so the problem there was that we could hear Tracer above us, which was an indication that Tracer was there. So again, that kind of comes down to audio awareness of make sure you're listening to your surroundings, because when we hear Tracers above us, we might want to be a little bit more hesitant about like fully syncing our kit around her when we know that she could just like melt us instantly if we do, right? So we just want to be careful and listen out for her so that we don't end up getting melted by her, as we could in that situation hear her footsteps above us.
So I was
Besides,
kind of hoping that. Oh yeah, hard
yeah,
to
go ahead.
continue.
Go ahead.
I was kind of hoping that my Ana and Baptiste would turn around because I called out the ball, and they walked away.
I need healing.
Yeah. So just in general, it's a good idea not to rely on comms, just because comms, people just end up not listening to comms all the time. That's just gonna get used to it.
Alright.
Yeah. Besides that, maybe like slightly delayed with I need healing, but besides that, it was mostly fine there. All right, stop over soldier for a little bit.
Like the last 10 seconds, I'm pretty sure.
Navigate administered. Priority to my will. Deine Hexe ist da.
Only gets better with age.
An exceptional performance.
All right, so unfortunately, I don't know if that was maybe the best game to be reviewing, just because you seem to do very, very well in that game. So if you recall from the criteria,
Yeah,
it's
I'd say most of my matches are sort of like this.
Mhm.
I got I think 90 SR yesterday.
Okay, well, I mean that's pretty great, man. So
Yeah,
it's just keep in
I got another
mind,
one.
yeah. So
I
we
played
can
similar to this, but I lose.
Yeah, so let's go over that one. That one's probably honestly sounds like it might be a little bit better of a game, because if that means that there's probably something you could have done better, right? But
Their widow was crazy.
yeah, all right.
It's I guess if you wouldn't mind, there's like a few moments where I feel the Widowmaker is cheating, but I'm just not 100% sure. Yes,
Man,
this one.
Is everyone ready?
The one on the red team.
yeah.
I think I'm playing Pharah, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I switched to Tracer later on.
Okay, would you like to stay on the far outside, or would you like
Yeah,
to skip forward
I
to the
guess
far?
so, yeah. I'd say
okay.
we could watch the Pharah part.
All right. So here, make sure that we are using cover. So in this game, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover, and this applies on the ground but also in the sky as well. So here, notice how we are very, very far wide out in the open, which means that Widowmaker trying to shoot at us is going to have free reign. It's just her in a firing range, free as day. Whereas if we, for example, were doing the same exact thing but standing more so like to this right wall, well, now we have this pretty much the same visibility, but now Widowmaker starts shooting at us, and it takes us half a second, right, to get behind cover, right, which is much better positioning for us. So make sure we're not out in the open here with our positioning. Okay, once again, noting that we do just kind of boost straight up in the air, very out in the open, right? Notice like just Widowmaker's line of sight on us here, where it just makes it very, very easy for her to shoot at us, right?
I just showed her a little bit here, I believe.
Oh, very
Oh,
nuts. Crazy gameplay. Yeah, I mean, I'd honestly say, man, like if you just keep that up, you're probably what SR did you place at?
I
Again?
placed at I believe 2090. I'm at 2509 now, and I think about a week and 3 days.
Okay, not that's a pretty great climb. So I'd just keep that up. Honestly, like if you ever want to come back for coaching, I'd probably say honestly keep going until you feel like you're starting to plateau a little bit. As of the moment, it feels like you're kind of on a hot streak and you're just dominating people within your gameplay, right? And you want to get to the point because coaching is really going to be helpful when you're at that plateau point where you are kind of a little bit stuck and you're not sure what to do. Whereas when you're not at that point and you just are dominating people, it's like, oh wow, you did good there, right?
Yeah, I guess. I thought
Very
I could have
not.
done better. Oh, that was good. I remember I get the kill.
Okay, so let's like rewatch that for half a second. So here we boost up, we drop in, right? Problem being that we end up getting like a little too close to the Mercy, and then that
Flash
means we take
damage.
explosion damage. Yeah. So here we do like every single shot here does explosion damage. That one does explosion damage, right? That one does explosion damage. That one does explosion damage. We get a kill out of it, but that did half of our HP, right? Besides that, here if we're trying to kill the Widowmaker quickly, I probably boost around here. This would make it harder for her to hit us, and then also could get us closer to her, which would make her shots easier. So looking down and boosting real quick with the concussion might be a really good idea there.
Raptora systems online. My ultimate is charging.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Okay, so here, let's rewatch this. So Widowmaker sees where we're going. She sees we're going high ground, right? And then we just kind of peek her here, right? Very
Forgot
slowly.
about the ult, yeah.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we're not being predictable within where we're moving, right? So here obviously, like you said, our biggest threat is Widowmaker, so we need to look to keep our eyes on her and make sure we're not letting her kill us for free. So if
Alright.
Widowmaker knows where we are, then we probably might want to do something to stop that. So here, for example, right, if Widowmaker is just, if we know that Widowmaker knows where we are, it might be a good idea to maybe take a different angle, right? Instead of just going up to the high ground, that might be a good idea to maybe back up and retake. Oh, they also have sights. I didn't notice that part.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's even bigger. I didn't even notice that part, but that's audio awareness once again, right? Paying attention to your surroundings, which we have seen time and time again has gotten us into issues, right? So she can see us through walls here, and then therefore that's an issue. But even if she couldn't see us through walls, we still might want to take a different angle, right? Or if we are going to come to the high ground, we might want to wait for like boost to engage on her, like drop on top of her with a concussion, which would make it very difficult for her to hit us, right? That sort of idea.
Back into the fray. Clearing the area.
Healing it up.
This will heal you.
Move back.
All right. So let's see here. So So here we get like a little bit aggressive out in the open. We also use concuss when it doesn't really do anything in this instance, and boost when it doesn't really do anything in this instance. So we end up kind of wasting two abilities there. So watch out for that, because that's not going to be very good. Very, very good.
Yeah, the Widow just pops off here.
All right, wow. Even going for the shot before we ult here. It's pretty. Alright, so Widowmaker ends up shooting us, so just make sure we're paying attention to where Widowmaker is, right, and looking to go for her.
Thank you.
Here we could hear her, for example, voice lining right below us, which again is another audio awareness thing where we can hear that she's right below us because we hear her voice lining. She says thank you, right, which we can hear on our end, right?
My
Justice
Untitled
reigns from above.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
I feel that Pharah's kind of not balanced right now.
Not balanced as in too good? Is that what you're getting at, or too
Yeah,
bad?
because the hit scans just got recently nerfed,
Yeah, I mean,
and
she
now
is.
all I'm seeing is Pharah's.
Yeah, I mean, she is pretty decent, yeah. Alright, when somebody is stunned, make sure we're intentionally going for headshots, right? As they can't, it's a standing still target, right? They're not going to move out of it, so the headshots are going to do like double damage, right? Why settle for body shots, right? Besides that here, right? Notice our target acquisition. Who's going to be easier to kill, Widowmaker or Sigma?
Definitely a Widow.
Right, and so probably want to take out the Widow, especially when she's been popping this whole time, right?
Let's try that again.
I'm overloading. Setting up the welcome mat.
Sing for my...
Oh, nuts.
You've got what's coming to you.
Justice reigns from above.
I forget
I was trying for the Pharah there.
All right.
I feel I could have killed there if I had like her there if I had like 2 extra seconds.
Yeah, so there in that instance, right, so some problems, right? So first off, we end up double blinking when double blinking probably isn't necessary. So here, again, when Pharah presses Q, she's pretty much a free kill, right? If we look at her, right? Notice how when we press Q on Pharah, we died, right? And that's just because
Yep.
she's standing still, very easy to hit. So here, right, we blink once to the side. This throws Pharah and Zarya off, who are both looking at us. We shoot at Pharah, we can probably melt her down and get a kill, or at least let somebody else kill her, right? But here we double blink over to cover, which would be good if Pharah wasn't ulting, right? We had an opportunity and we didn't capitalize on it, right? Besides that, again, look at who we're shooting at. We're shooting at Sigma, who has more HP than Pharah, and Pharah standing still, right? So probably shoot at the Pharah, right? Then we recall without needing to, right? Recall, we don't actually recall out of any damage there, right? So let's relook at that, right? Like we recall here when we didn't take any
Yeah.
damage or anything
I was
needed.
expecting the barrage to hit me and it didn't.
Because it ended though, so
Yeah.
Alright. So, slump over to the Tracer. So, noting so far that we've died... How many times have we died? Was it just 3 times or was it 4 times?
I can't remember. Probably 4.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was... We died 1, 2, 3... Okay, it was 4. Yep. So, we died 4 times. Just keeping that in mind that as of the current moment, that's not a good rate to have. We might go a little bit more in depth if that keeps up.
Огонь по готовности.
Yeah, coming up here, I'm pretty sure the Widow tracks me through a wall. Just looked really weird. Like, could you watch the Widow here for a second if you don't mind?
Like right here?
Yeah, I guess if you were... Oh, shoot, not... Never mind. When she respawns, yeah.
Oh, when she respawns, okay. Sure. Notice that we like completely disengaged from that fight. Not too sure why we completely disengaged from the fight. It's possible that we're looking to get healing and we're looking around to try to get that. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're trying to get healing is our objective there. But yeah. So which is okay. I might have just maybe played passive instead of just completely backing off the fight. So is this where you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's because she heard us blink, right? So that's audio awareness, right? So if you can usually like when you know Widowmaker's hacking, like for example, as if she did this, if you did the same thing on you when you were like all the way over here and you were like walking around the corner, like if she tracked you through the wall and did that, this is very easily explained by the fact that she can hear you blink at this close of a distance,
Damage boost engaged.
right? So if you, I mean, I can turn up my volume because my sound is a little low when I do coaching, so I can hear myself talk. But if you rewind that 5 seconds, just listen out and listen for the blink sound.
Damage boost engaged.
Right, so you hear the do-do, right, or whatever that sound
Yep.
that makes, right? So that's why she looks over at us. She ends up missing the shot. So let me turn that down real quick. Okay. Notice that we're engaging when our entire team is dead. Don't be doing that, right? That's going to, when we do that, right? None of them are distracted, so all of them can look at us, right? Pharah can look at us, Moira can look at us, Sigma can look at us, Widow, Mercy can look at us, right? Literally all of them can look at us. Now, let's say a fight's going on. What happens if they all look at us in that case?
We die.
Well, yeah, you maybe die in that case, but like, what would happen to the enemy team?
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat what you said again?
Yeah, so if the fight is going on and our team is shooting at them from the front here, our entire team's over here, and all of them turn around to look at us, what happens then in that instance?
I'd say our team rolls them.
Yeah, then our team just shoots them for free, right? So they can't do that, and if they did, that would be bad for them, right? Whereas in this instance, it's bad for us if we try to engage. So when we engage while the fight's happening, we create a crossfire effect, we go on an off angle, we distract their backline. Overall, again, we're creating chaos, whereas here, this is doing nothing but just not really getting us any value and probably it potentially leading to deaths, right? So this is just not a good time where we want to be engaging. We probably want to wait for the next fight to begin, right? Don't go in without your team. Right. Besides that, watch spam jumping, right? So spam jumping is when you just go jump, 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 jump. Jumping is going to actually make you easier to headshot in most instances. So this makes it easier for Widowmaker to headshot us here because we jump, right? So it's just a bad habit to get out of.
Heroes never die. This is not your time. Schaden verstärkt. Find its will.
Wait for it.
Alright, so we're looking for the combo with the Zarya, or at least maybe it sounded as though we weren't looking for it and then we heard it and then we were looking for it.
Yep.
Right, that sort of idea. So in that instance, right, couple things. So first off, I would note press tab frequently, right? If we don't see that we have a grab, that means we're not pressing tab enough. This is again comes down to awareness of it's probably a good idea to press tab because you want to pay attention to what team composition is my team on? Did we make any character swaps? Did they make any character swaps? What ultimates does my team have? Can I combo with any ultimates, right? It's important to pay attention to this information. So my recommendation is at a very minimum, once in between every single fight, right, is you should be pressing tab. That way we can see that we have a grab, and then that way instead of reacting after grab has come, we're coming into the fight ready for the grab, right? Besides that, here in this instance, right? Do you think that Pulse is a necessity to get these two kills here?
Definitely not. The Pharah was low, and Zarya could have killed the Moira.
Yeah, and you could have just absolutely shredded her with with headshots because she's in a grav, right? So if Pulse isn't necessary here, probably don't want to waste it, right? You could just shoot them very easily and get both the kills. Okay, besides that, note that we also waste recall yet again. Keep in mind that when we waste abilities, it wastes them, and we don't get any value out of them. It means we don't have it for when we actually need them. And also, again, noting that we're completely disengaging when we're at an advantage here, right? At the moment, it's a 1, 2. Oh, sorry, maybe I miscalculated that. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4 versus. I guess if we separate these guys, say they're in their own fight, right? It's essentially a 3v2 here. So maybe you're not like winning by a ton, but it's still the point at which you don't want to like necessarily completely disengage and get out of the fight, right? So here there's just no reason to get this far out when we could just still be shooting at Zarya and Sigma. There's health back right there as well.
My ultimate is nano boost installed.
Alright, so we're going to exit out here, and we're going to go over something real quick. So, are you familiar with what crosshair placement is?
Yes, I am. I've heard of it a few times.
Yeah, so we'll just go over that real quick because in our gameplay we're not really utilizing crosshair placement. So as a reminder, if you're familiar with it or if the concept is still unfamiliar to you, what crosshair placement is just placing your crosshair in really good positioning to hit easy shots. And the first basic step to that is aiming at head level, right? We're at the moment we're walking around aiming here, and that means that when we come up to shoot at people, we hit body shots, and body shots do literally like half the damage is headshots. So we want to hit headshots, and this makes headshots harder to hit. It means that, let's say we're just spamming down into shields or down a corridor or into people just naturally, we hit body shots. Whereas if we are to aim head level and just walk around aiming head level, well, now we just naturally hit headshots when we're doing the exact same things, right? Shooting into shields, shooting down corridors, right? Shooting into people, we just naturally hit headshots. So we want to make sure we're walking around aiming at that level. Same thing would apply on Doomfist as well, right? When you're on Doomfist, if we're aiming down low, we're going to be hitting body shots, right? The second step to this would be pre-aiming, aiming where you know people are going to be, right? So if we know bot is going to be on right side here, he's coming left, we can look at head level and be ready for him so that when he comes around this corner, we can just hit him very, very easily because we already have our crosshair placed there, right? Here again, we know that he's on the left, so we can pre-aim here, look at level, very easy shots because we're already looking there, right? These guys are on a slope, so the same way we'd look down on a Torb, right, and up on a tank, we're going to look down on these guys, so that when we come in here, right, we're going to, he's not down, right, so when we come in here, right, we're able to line up those shots easy. Okay, so that's the basics. Why don't we move on? Now we're going to go over the main points of the session and then do a quick review and wrap up here. So let's see. Doomfist, right? Start off with him. Ability usage. Make sure we're not fully syncing our kit inside of their team, right? That's a one to work on, right?
Yeah.
You usually you're only going to want to do that if you're not going to die, right? If you are in a 1v1, you have your ultimate. If you're able to get out alive, then that's fine. But typically, you want an ability to get out with, right? Besides that, punch in when you can, just because it just gets the one shots and it's very easy. Besides that, make sure we're looking to intentionally just work on connecting our abilities, as we ended up missing a lot of them, right? Or just wasting them. Besides that, don't keep going in when you don't have abilities, right? Make sure you're playing a little bit more passive and waiting for them to all come back before you're engaging. Besides that, let's see. I think that's... Oh, yeah. Punching in at distances, right, to get over to people like on Pharah or at ranges, right? We can punch over and jump to get over to the person and then disengage with an E, right? And then that's about it on Doomfist. I'd probably say on Doomfist, it's about like a medium priority for you to work on with his abilities. Tracer, right? Recall, make sure we're not just wasting that. I don't know if like within our gameplay we saw, maybe we saw like one or two good
Quite a few
recalls,
times,
but
yeah.
yeah, but we saw us mess it up quite a few times where we didn't really do anything with it. And then blinks, a couple times where we wasted them. Besides that, we didn't talk a ton on blinks. I don't think we got around to talking about blinks at all, but overall on Tracer, I'd probably say it's around the same, maybe like a medium priority for you to work on as well. Moving
Another
on.
character I've been
Yeah.
working on is Soldier.
Hmm?
How do you think that is so far?
Well, I mean, we only saw Soldier for like a minute.
Yeah.
One thing I would say with Soldier, like I can't really gauge a lot of it because I only saw it for like a minute, but one thing I would say is like Helix, just make sure we're using it to finish off targets, right? As we maybe saw like one time on the ball where we just kind of let him go without helixing him, right? Or like
Mhm.
Tracer where we tried to helix Tracer to start off when maybe finishing her might be a better idea. It depends upon the range with this one, right? If you are far away from somebody, you want to fire it to start off, and then you can follow it up with damage. When you are close to somebody, you want to use it as the finisher, not the starter, right? So you would go like this and then finish it with a helix. Okay. Then moving on, ultimate usage. Honestly, ultimate usage didn't seem too terrible. I think Tracer, make sure we're not ulting in when it's not needed, right? don't use ults in one or lost fights, but we didn't really see a ton of that.
Only
Doomfist,
through conflict
with our ult, I didn't really see any big problems with Doom ult. Make sure comboing with ultimates, right? Combo with like the Say ult, and look for good opportunities for it. But overall, it's kind of like a low to medium priority, not a ton of big things with it. But we also didn't see a ton of them. Moving on, mechanics, right? Make sure that we are aiming head level, keeping good crosshair placement, that we are keeping good target priorities. We saw a lot of instances where target priority came up, right? Making sure that we know who to shoot at and when. In general, that's not going to be tanks, right? And then there's also, even past that, there's other target priority as well, right? Like, Tracer's going to be a lot harder to kill than like an Ana, right? So focus the Ana and intentionally seek her out and go for her. Overall, that one probably goes to like a medium priority as well, within everything. Positioning, make sure that we are repositioning in between fights, that we're using cover. Just good positioning is the usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover, especially on our Pharah, that was apparent. Use sky cover, right? Besides that, make sure we're not coming down main, but from the left or the right. That's called off angling, right? That, especially like on a character like Doomfist, right? You want to do that so you can get around to the support, so you can create a crossfire effect, right? All those types of deals. And then overall, that one, again, probably like a medium priority. It wasn't too much higher than the others. And then finally, we have awareness, right? Paying attention to your surroundings. This one was pretty big. Paying attention to your health bar, request healing when you're low, pay attention to your audio awareness. We had a lot of instances where we just didn't hear things, so make sure we're keeping our ears open and listening for our surroundings, because there were a lot of instances where we made bad decisions because we didn't hear someone, right? Or we missed something over that. Pay attention to where is the enemy team and where is my team at, right? So for example, that would stop us from walking in when our teammates aren't, when they're not there with us, right? Don't engage in fights when that's happening. Pay attention to won and lost fights, right? Pay attention to kill feed, right? 1 to 2 is an advantage or a disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. Don't use ults in won or lost fights. Get more aggressive when you're winning. Play more passive when you're losing, right? In a lost fight, look to get out if you can, or let them kill you, right? Don't just go in when you don't have teammates with you, right? Besides that, let's see, was there anything else in awareness? It's just a lot of odds and ends things, right? A couple times they got us killed as well. And that's pretty much it. Oh, Pharah, we never talked about like Pharah's things. Pharah, just make sure not, the big thing with Pharah is just don't misuse your abilities. Like, there were a couple times where we just used them when they weren't necessary, and then a couple times where we could have used them where we didn't, right? So you can use your concussion to boost in on top of people. Make sure we're watching so we're not doing a bunch of self-damage, right, with our rockets. So try to keep a little bit of a healthy range where we can get in on top of them, but not be damaging ourselves, right? Like this range-ish, right? So that's about it. Oh, sorry, let me put that in order real quick. That one is probably a medium high, was awareness, right? So overall, probably number 1 thing for you to work on was awareness. Number 2 would be ability usage. 3 would probably be, probably say 3 is going to be your positioning. 4 is going to be your, what was that one? 4 was going to be the mechanics, and then 5 is going to be your ultimate usage. I'd probably say the closest ones together would be like mechanics and your positioning. Those probably could be interchangeable. Right? Do you have any questions on anything we've talked about, or just anything else in general?
I'd say that you covered everything.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Group up with me.
Yeah, let me... Go ahead.
After that.